Taking fashion photos with studio strobes is already a challenge. Now, imagine doing fashion photography while holding your breath. This photographer uses her dancing and photography talents to capture incredible images underwater. So you grew up where?
San Francisco Bay Area.
Okay. What kind of kid were you? Were you the crazy artist?
Really quiet. I was really quiet, just awkwardly, uncomfortably quiet. I had to always think through everything that I was going to say before I said it, and then the moment would pass, and then I just wouldn't say anything. And so I was really in my head a lot, and so everybody thought I was just this weird, quiet genius. Because I mean, I would do well in school and everything, but it's amazing how smart you can be by keeping your mouth shut. You know, for people, everything, we just sort of accumulate everything from different shoots, and that has so much character, and so it just sort of warms up the house and reminds us and inspires us about what we've shot and what we want to shoot. And I take a lot of inspiration from objects, so I like to work with props underwater too. It's difficult sometimes to understand what is going to sink and what's going to float and what's going to fall apart and how things are put together and what's it going to look like. So yeah, we got this kind of pocket watch that's an oversized pocket watch that I wanted to use for a dream shoot that I just shot a couple weeks ago. And yeah, it was a great, I just like to work with size difference because the underwater thing is such a different environment, an unreal, dreamlike environment. So I kind of just want to play with that as much as possible. And so I usually kind of work with props and then sometimes shoot them separately and change the size, but then also be really working with props as they are in water. It just kind of adds another level of interest and difference, you know, from every element you put underwater is another problem to work with, but a potential amazing shot. I started collecting instruments. We started with the trumpet. That was actually brand new, and I thought because it's a wind instrument that it would be fine underwater even after. It doesn't work so well. Not like I can play the trumpet, so that's the funny thing is I have like probably 6 or 7 instruments in here and I can't play any of them. The organ we just recently put in the pool last weekend, a couple days ago, and we thought because all of the kind of metal workings inside that it would actually want to kind of sink, and then we could kind of weigh it down. And it was a huge raft, and it's about 100 years old, and it's got a really great kind of ornate stool to it too, and it's beautiful, and we just thought we can put lots of shot bags in there and be able to just sort of weigh it down, and it was just clouding up the pool. There was just so much stuff coming, and we tried to spray it down. It was just making the pool just this mess of 100 years of dirt. And floating like crazy. We had 3 grown men like on it trying to sink it, and it was just, yeah. We have to have amazing communication in a short amount of time.
Right.
And it's basically like a very similar thing to directing. You have to say everything up front, but when the action's happening, you can't talk to them.
Right.
Basically, I always like to have the models right under the surface to play with the reflection, because otherwise it just looks like this empty space, and I don't ever want it to be pointless to be underwater. You know, it's like that I could have done with a fan in a studio.
Right.
Dancers were constantly fighting against gravity. That's our one problem. So it's just this release. We don't have to deal with gravity anymore. It's like this just empty open space, and it's just a fun day. I like to keep everything really light and fun, and always have snacks. It's a day in the pool when it comes down to it, and it's fun. If things get too heavy, it gets hard, and it's already hard. So let's just keep it light and fun, and it will inevitably get something that's just stunning. I started dancing when I was 4, and I'm still dancing. I just had a ballet performance last month. It's been the most amazing thing to have something that you do for so long and have it be such a part of you. Through Santa Cruz, I was doing lots of dance classes because they were great, and a lot of modern dance classes, and expanding from my traditional ballet classes. I co-directed a modern dance show. It was all student choreographed, run, directed, and dance. I got to really love being able to be shooting what I know. And I was so comfortable. I know the language. I can see that language. I know exactly when they're about to do something, when they're preparing to do something. So I can be there because it's so, it moves so quickly and it's gone. And there's hardly any light in there always. For all performance, it's just no light. I'm just working a lot with motion blur, and I really got into that. Being able to see something that our eyes can't see, I thought was just so amazing. And I started getting to multiple exposures again, and just getting back to what I was experimenting with my dad. And it was back to just really exciting, just so much fun. Actually, I didn't get into photography until college. Yeah, I was always artistic, and I loved art class. Was just a fun play for me. I wasn't challenged in the bad way, just always in the good ways. Being able to physically do something and hold something and think about what you want to create and make it. I actually have a learning disability, and so I can't. It's just a slight sort of just auditory memory. And reading comprehension. So just reading, history and English was just so hard for me. But I was always good with math and science, and so the numbers, and when things really, there's an equation and it makes sense, and this is the exact right answer. And so I think it's kind of funny that, as an artist, I moved into a very technical field because it is very, exposures, everything, all these numbers, that's really comfortable for me, and I can geek out on having the right exposure and everything, but then also have this outlet to be really creative and be moving around and not being in an office. And even though I do tend to be here a lot in my home office, a lot of retouching and just business end of things, marketing and everything. I want to be a painter and sketch artist. I think that is where my imagination goes and what I see it as a painting. And I just physically can't really get what I want through painting, and so the underwater aspect of photography that's why I'm so drawn to it, is because I'm basically creating a completely new space, blank slate, and I don't have the regular rules to follow like everyone else as far as gravity. So it's like I'm shooting on the moon, and so I can do whatever I want.
So we're here with Alice, the makeup artist, and Lyz, very talented. So what kind of techniques are you doing on her face? How do you do makeup for water?
I have to do just cream product, no powder.
Oh, just
so
cream.
So we are gonna go with foundation and cream eyeshadow and cream fix powder. And I'm gonna do it very natural makeup because she's very fair skin. And just simple makeup but very luminous. Shine. And,
So where are you from?
Italy.
Italy, Milan. Have you modeled in water before?
I have.
You
I
have?
actually worked with Mallory before.
You have? And And is she fun to work with?
It was great. It's like it's so different than just like a studio shoot because you're underwater and it's heated. It's really
heated.
fun. It's amazing.
You can't hear anything.
Yeah.
Block out the world.
And the pictures came out great, so I'm really excited for today.
Lyz I've worked with before on a beauty shoot, so she kind of knows the deal. Usually I kind of have, right when we get there and we set up, they're in makeup and wardrobe, I'm getting gear set up. Then once we come together, I kind of have a family meeting and just sort of kind of go through the entire day of like, okay, so this is the schedule, this is the plan. And then if I hadn't worked with a model before, really talk them through the whole process of how we work. We're just gonna stay in the shallow end and just keep it really low key. We're not gonna be lots of treading water. It's just gonna be making sure the wardrobe looks really great, the jewelry looks really great. Basically acting like we're in a studio shooting fashion with a fan, but underwater. So today we're gonna do a very strictly fashion shoot. No props, actually. Just really focusing on the garment and having it look really gorgeous. Keep rolling, keep moving pretty quickly. Try to do three different looks and just change out the jewelry. Right when I'm ready to shoot, okay, we like are ready? All right, 1, 2, 3, and then we go.
Okay.
So you're only responsible for being ready when I count down and go under. But just you can really play with the bottom of the pool to be having it like that can still be your floor, but just kind of working also with the non-gravity, and so you can do some like really kind of fun arch bending back, or just something that just wouldn't really happen in a normal studio.
Okay.
Yeah, but we don't have to do like acrobatic crazy things, you know, just something that's a little bit different and just right near the surface and really comfortable expressions. And we'll just keep moving around and always see what works and what we need to change and keep moving.
So what do you usually do when you come on these shoots? What do you do?
Well, I mean, Mallory has all the gear, so usually we show up here and then we'll get in there, and it totally depends on what the shoot is. If there's props involved, we'll be like rigging stuff around. I mean, sometimes she's had some stuff where like we're dangling things, you know, like by fishing lines, so it's rigging all of that. But on something like today, where it's gonna, you know, just kind of a beauty fashion shoot, Mallory's got the camera. And then she usually likes to have like 2 assistants, ideally. So like somebody would be off to the side using like a diffusion and shooting light through there.
Right.
And then somebody else, she's got a really long one with a strobe that she can kind of get on the side and get a little rim light, you know, get a little highlight on the side.
So is it hard for you? I mean, to swim and take direction and hold, and I mean, do you get tired? You kind of have to be in good shape, don't you?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's like it's pretty relaxed, you know, in the environment. I mean, especially for what Mallory shoots, it's not like crazy explosive, you know, stuff. I mean, you know, so it's like all about the model looking like usually kind of ethereal and relaxed, and so, you know, she creates an environment that's conducive to that.
You're the guy here, you're the strength.
Right.
So you've got to...
So it's got to be, yes, it's very hard and tough. And
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is Lyz, and you're the other assistant that's going to help out, Mallory.
Yes.
So what do you usually do when you come on these shoots?
Depending. If we don't have props today, but usually I'd be helping set up props, but I'm also a lighting assistant.
Yeah.
I'll either do the key light, which is lighting the model, or the rim light, which is giving a nice edge light to the model.
So you're a photographer too, though?
Yes.
And what kind of stuff do you do?
I shoot children's portraits.
Oh, okay.
Children's portraits.
And that was your picture on the wall in your guys' apartment. It's beautiful.
Thank you very
So
much.
is it fun to kind of jump in here and do a different style with Mallory?
I absolutely love it. I grew up in the water, so this is my second home. We watch out for the models because they're in somewhat distress sometimes, because especially when they get down in the deep end of the water, because they have clothes that are weighing them down, and sometimes they might have a little bit of trouble getting back up to the surface. So we're definitely keeping an eye on them as well.
Do you find that you have to be in shape and...
You have to be in shape, but also just being really comfortable with the water, because you're spending a lot of time underwater.
And what are you going for? Are you going for backlight, front light?
So basically, this light that's right near camera is gonna be basically our softbox. And so we're basically using the inside of a 5-in-1 that's seen better days because it's not supposed to be in the water.
Yeah.
And we're basically holding it just off of this light, and we're basically creating a man-made softbox.
Cool.
And so we can move that around. It's a really overcast day today, so I mean it's a really nice diffused light coming in, but it is darker than normal.
Okay. Because you've got 2 top lights up here.
Yeah. So usually when it's a bright sunny day, it's a lot brighter in here. So basically I have to bump up my ISO to get the kind of ambient exposure the right way, and just have the shutter speed as low as I possibly can to bring in the light but not have any motion blur.
Okay.
And then my aperture, I need to have kind of a medium, like an f8, to make sure I've got everything in focus.
Right.
I've got a wide lens, so that kind of helps.
We are here with Devin, and you've got all the stylists. What's your official title? Wardrobeist, stylist? What do you want me to call you?
I'm a fashion stylist.
Okay.
So, but other people sometimes refer to it as wardrobe stylist as well.
Okay. So is it different doing stuff in water? I mean, this is a little different.
Yeah, you definitely have to think of the clothes differently, because you want clothes that are going to have flow and lots of fabric, and they're going to move nicely in the water. The other thing about the difference between shooting outside of the water is the water changes the fabric. So it changes the colors, it changes, all the details and things that you see on the actual clothing.
So when you've picked out your clothes, do you want like subtle colors? Or are you going for pops of color? What do you usually go for?
Blacks and darker colors aren't going to necessarily show up, and then white somewhat gets a little washed out too.
Oh.
So there's got to be a middle balance. So like a tan like this, or even something like particular like this with a print.
No.
That looks really gorgeous in water, and then it really flows really well in the water too.
And she also mentioned something, you don't want a lot of heavy clothing because it would drown the models. So you have to be careful about that.
So I mean, like cottons like this we don't really typically use because it absorbs the water so much, and then it's heavy and it drags, and it's not really airy and light and pretty, which is what you want to get in an underwater shoot.
Okay.
But today we're doing something a little different.
Right.
We're going to combine swimsuits with actual wardrobe to get kind of a fresh look instead of just doing something as dresses.
Okay, so you want maybe more simple attire because you're doing jewelry, right?
Right. Our real focus for this shoot is the jewelry, which is by LaShawn. So we're going to be focusing more on the jewelry. The clothing is just kind of there, as a complement to it. So, like here, we're going to put these colors together.
Oh my gracious.
And that's citrine. All these stones are all real stones. And the thing with the jewelry too, you have to be careful when doing underwater, is a lot of the metals or even the stones will disintegrate in the chlorine.
Yeah.
So especially with fabrics, you can't use silks or any synthetics because the chlorine will break it down. I have a publication called The Stylist Handbook, which is specific for fashion and wardrobe stylists. You can visit at www.thestylisthandbook.com.
Space, and it's basically a studio. It's just water studio, and so basically a blank slate in the background, and so I can kind of move people around wherever I want them to be, and make and composite. It's basically half done when I shoot it most of the time, and then working with it later to create the finished product, and really tweaking and using Photoshop as a big tool to really create what's in my head. And my dad had always been into photography as a hobby, and he's very technical. He was a nurse, and he's went through pre-med, and he's very technical. He that's where I get the math and science. So he kind of taught me all about film, and then we would just kind of experiment and play in the house with multiple exposures that we'd block out all the light, and we'd have this big lamp thing that we'd turn on and off. Then I'd be in one spot, and then we'd make it dark, and then I'd move, and then we'd turn the light on, then turn it on. It was just really fun. We really played with it, and it was fun. It was something that was completely unrelated to school, that it was not assignment based. It didn't feel like it was I have to. So it was completely a hobby, and I really I started focusing on macro shots. I'd get the extensions on there to be like a +1, +2, +3, so I can get really close up and do like a water drop on a flower. I was really big into flowers and leaves and things that didn't move. because that was comfortable for me to start. And in high school there was a photography class, but I wasn't interested in that. I wanted to do ceramics and I wanted to be a potter, make pots all day. I don't know. Yeah, I was never really thinking business minded, like what am I gonna do as a career? I was like, this is what I want to do. And I had applied for colleges with my pottery portfolio. And and then I got into UC Santa Cruz and I took a photography class and I was in the dark room and I had a picture of my cat and it came up in the developer. I was like, done, this is magic, this is so cool. And being in the dark room, and it was just like this really comfortable little cave in there, getting all dirty in the chemicals, which awful for you. And like that kind of Christmas sort of thing where just to see something appear and it's really working, and how hard it is to go from idea to finished print and have it actually work out. I mean, it's a miracle. So I kind of looked around for maybe a master's program, and I found Brooks Institute. Pretty much every instructor I really, really loved. I felt comfortable, but also very, very challenged the entire time. I was showing an instructor my first underwater shots, and he brought it in. He's like, Paul, check this out. He's like, this doesn't suck. And this was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And he really pushed me to make sure that my standards are still set to the same par underwater as they are above water. I always take that with me every shoot, is don't make excuses for the fact that you're underwater. Don't say, well, this is hard. So it's hard. Of course it's hard. It's voluntary. I don't have to be putting this up underwater, and I think that that's kind of also what's sort of setting me apart is really focusing on this is a regular shoot. I'm lighting everything the right way, normally studio lighting, but there's just an atmosphere that's different. It just sort of clicked together that I've been doing dance and I'm working with like trampolines and like basically just trying to defy gravity whenever possible. And then those just sort of three things sort of came together in one like epiphany of like, oh my God, okay, dancers in the pool, that would solve the gravity issue. And I have a way to do it. I have the gear and equipment to actually do it and try it. And we took some shots and I got a few that I just couldn't stop staring at, and I was like, this is awesome. I have to keep trying this. And so I just decided, okay, let's get a housing that will work for pools. We don't need this crazy fancy thing that can go down 300 feet. I just need something that'll not put water on the camera. And so I got an Ikelite housing, and I still shoot with Ikelite now. And so I got my gear and then I slowly built up, and I got one light and then I got another light, and the lights that I'm using are actually made to light a fish. I mean, basically what I do, there's nothing that's specifically made for what I do. So I have to just sort of make it work and get the most powerful lights that will work for me, and just sort of modify and experiment to make it work for what I want to do and how I want it to look. So this is my housing. It's made by Ikelite, and we've got a dome port here, and so all the buttons correspond to the buttons on the camera, and this is specifically made for a Canon 5D Mark II because all the buttons have to correspond with this exact model, and so every time you get a new camera you have to get a new housing. So that's also the hard part about underwater is, and it's a big barrier for a lot of people, is to do it right. It's very expensive. I've got one light on camera, and so this actual setup is really just to be shooting fish up close, but I can be moving this arm around, and sometimes I usually take the arm off and I have this cord, have an assistant hold it right off camera. We've got a sync cord coming out of here, and then it's split, so one goes here and then the other one is a 15-foot sync cord to the other light. So the other light is handheld by my other assistant. And so this will be a backlight, and we can just move this around and have freedom to move wherever we want, side light. And the 15-foot is basically kind of our leash because we don't really want to go any further than that because these lights aren't that powerful. They're meant to be shooting fish. Got a 17 to 40 lens on here. We usually shoot kind of wide for underwater. People that are just trying it out are really focused. Ooh, look at that. That looks cool. That reflection. Ooh, this bubble. This looks a little bit like. Focus on the model. Make sure that the facial expressions and the posing is what you would normally do on a regular shoot. Make sure that the environment is as comfortable as possible. Have the pool be 90 degrees at least. That's what our pool is, 90 degrees that we're gonna be in. And it's bath water, and then just always be really conscious of your model. You need to put them on a pedestal and just brush their hair. Like be just treat them like a baby in the best sense, because it's all about them. They need to be comfortable, they need to be confident, and those two things will go a long, long way. And not trying to be so overly ambitious with what you want them to do, and just go baby steps and just get them in the pool, see what happens, and then don't having them wear lots of props and lots of wardrobe and everything, because it's dangerous. I'd say give your models everything that they could possibly need as far as direction goes, so they really know what they're needing to do. Have a plan, have a drawing if you can draw. I do little stick figures. And then also what's great about having a dance experience is I can show them exactly what I want them to do. And I try to get models that have had, if they aren't dancers currently, have had dance experience. And I never use shoes with any of the shoots because they look weird without actually standing on something, and they never stay on. And so being able to point their feet, it just finishes the line perfectly. Swimming is not graceful. Like treading water is not graceful. But flowing in the water and being able to, use your hands and have them look soft and just a finished line, that's a dancer. I'm Mallory Morrison, and I am a dancer and conceptual underwater photographer and fine artist, and I've just been framed.
How do I play it?
That's hard to do when I'm sitting.